Hey, welcome back to Music Tectonics, where we go beneath the surface of music and tech. I'm your host, Dimitri Vitsa. I'm also the founder and CEO of Rock, Paper, Scissors, a marketing and PR firm that specializes in music innovation. For the next 2 weeks, we'll be talking about all things NAMM, which is where I picked up this trash talk audio microphone. I'm getting into some of the exciting innovations we spotted on the show floor, along with some trends that we noticed this year. One of the biggest trends we noticed was that AI seems to have hit an inflection point. Last year, the conversation around AI was tense, with creators expressing fear over being replaced by AI. This year, we saw more AI tools designed to support creators, and in some cases, become integrated directly into software and hardware that musicians already know and use. In this episode, you'll hear two conversations from NAMM that captured the shift. First up, we're sharing a conversation with Daniel Rowland, the VP of Strategy and Partnerships at LANDR. For over a decade, LANDR's been building music creator tools, starting with AI-powered mastering and expanding into samples, plugins, distribution, and generative AI features. We talk about how creators are now using AI tools, and LANDR's new Layers feature that adds real musician performances through AI, and why this technology is becoming less about replacement and more about expanding creative possibility. This conversation was fun. We recorded it on the John Lennon Educational Tour Bus.
Hey, I'm here with Daniel Rowland with LANDR.
What's up, dude?
Great to see you. We're here at NAMM.
Always good to see you. Always good to be at NAMM. Always good to hang with you, Dimitri.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. Saw you at CES. Now we're here. We're sitting in the John Lennon bus. That's pretty fun. You guys are doing something cool here.
I mean, there is not a cooler place to be than this bus. It blows my mind every time I come on here.
It's the quietest place at NAMM.
It's by far. It's worth the cost of admission just to get away from everything here.
Thanks for carving out the time.
Yeah, man.
You're VP of Strategy and Partnerships at LANDR.
Yep.
Kind of a LANDR mascot, I would say.
For about 11 years, I've been the mascot running around, talking about all this stuff. Yeah.
Now, the Music Tectonics audience mostly knows about LANDR, but let's say we have some new listeners.
Yep.
What's the soundbite? How do you describe LANDR now?
Cool. LANDR is kind of the broadest ecosystem for music creator tools, right? The idea being that there's a bunch of amazing companies out there to do amazing stuff if you want to make music, but it's all very fragmented and there's all different subscriptions. So we kind of take everything from coming up with an idea through, samples and plugins and mastering and distribution and put it under one subscription. So it's an easy way to get in and get everything you need and then tack on all the other cool stuff as needed.
What's the first thing people usually do when they enter the LANDR ecosystem?
That's a good question. I mean, we're most known for mastering and have been for a long time. So people are always kind of toying around with that. But really, a lot of our AI tools that we've released recently, and some of which are in beta and some of which have been out, people are really in there playing with that to kind of get a vibe on where things are heading. So.
And you're not just like a random guy doing this. You're a bit of a producer and engineer yourself.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your story, and then we'll dive in with some cool.
Sure. I mean, I came up as a guitar player, and since I was 15, that's been my only job is in music, right until I joined LANDR maybe 10 years ago. So yeah, I still produce and engineer a lot of music. I've Emmy winning stuff, Academy Award winning stuff. I've got a project up for a Grammy with Star Wars this year.
Nice, congrats.
So yeah, it's awesome. I can keep a foot in that world, right? And also do this fun tech stuff. And as you know, I'm a college professor at MTSU and have been for about 15 years. So I get to like to dip my toes and all that.
I don't know how you do it all, but
yeah. But LANDR is the main thing, and I'm really super passionate about what we've kind of the mission of the company over the past 10 or so years.
So AI is the topic everywhere. At CES, at NAMM, in the rags.
I'll be happy when it's not.
I know exactly.
What's the next thing?
But I am curious to hear how you think about AI today. You've got a very artist-oriented perspective. Tell me what your view and philosophy is there.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to approach it with a glass half full sort of a view, right? And it's been, admittedly, for everybody, it's been a bumpy couple of years on the AI side of things. When you had the Silicon Valley style innovation thing come into our space, right? It's move fast, break things, don't license, all that kind of stuff. It's really put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth on the AI side of things when there's a bunch of really cool stuff you can do with this, right? And we are seeing the resolution of a lot of that stuff, right? With the deals with the major labels and the lawsuits going away against the studios and studios. So we're still at the cusp of a lot of that stuff getting resolved. But no, I mean, it's part of what we're going to chat about today is I think there's, people, especially on generative AI, people have this aversion to it still a little bit, right? Because you think of prompting and then I'm not needed anymore. This thing just exists that I didn't really have much agency over. The reality is, now companies like ours, and there's other ones too, can come kind of backfill that extreme version of what Gen AI is with things that actual creators want, like what I want to use. Like what do I want this to be? We can do that now. We just need creatives to be involved in the decision-making process of the tools that get built. And I think that's what was kind of missing from some of those early gen things that kind of drove us all nuts.
So don't throw the AI baby with 6 fingers out with the bathwater.
That's exactly how I would frame
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So like, there's this phase of kind of disruption and people wild, wild west scraping everything. We're gonna replace artists. Making music is boring. Nobody wants to make music type of perspective.
No.
And now it's saying, well, not all of that is true. It doesn't have to be that way. But what are tools that creators might actually want?
Yes, like what fits into the way that people currently make music now that also will take them to the next stage of how they're going to make music. We are in a bit of a transition period about how we're all going to kind of engage with this technology. So it's not totally eschewing some of what can be done. It's more how do you incorporate it into the way that we all work, as opposed to forcing us into some way that we're not. It's uncomfortable, honestly.
Yeah. You were talking about this a little, but I wanted you to go into it a little more about what's changed over the last year. Like, what have you seen that has gone from that kind of like fear, disruption, taking sides to something that feels like a more mature, more palatable, more useful perspective and implementation of AI?
It's fascinating. I was on a panel about on-device AI here with some awesome people, and one of the things, it was in the same room, and I was on a similar panel last year, right? And the temperature is I talked about this, so dramatically different. I was talking mad crap about Suno last year because that's when that quote had just come out, and like the CEO, of course, about people who want to make music, and I understand what he was trying to say. He's also talking to investors when he said that, right? Yeah. But he's pitching to investors subtly. But I get where kind of the subtext of that. But in the audience was like, yeah, screw Suno back then. But this year, much different. I mean, so many of the songwriters that I talk to and I work with now, they use Suno all the time, right? Not to text prompt music to existence, but to iterate on ideas in different genres. And I always use the Childish Gambino, Donald Glover quote of to make mistakes faster, right? We're in such a fast, the way AI can be good, whether it's us or other companies, is that depending upon what you're doing in the music industry, you have to work quick, right? And there's a high volume output. I mean, if you're in K-pop as an example, I was on a panel yesterday with a K-pop producer, and he's like, man, we have to put out so much content so fast. We don't have time to experiment anymore. And that really hurts the creative process. AI taking over some of the tasks and helping us iterate allows us to experiment more and really kind of evolve our production, as opposed to kind of being stagnant just because we have to put out so much content. Anyway, there's a lot of different aspects of it, I think.
I agree with you. Last year, everybody that was on the music creation side was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that replacing the job. It was also the scraping of the content with no attribution, no monetization, which is still an open question in a sense. It's starting to get addressed. There are licenses happening, but it hasn't been fully implemented enough to really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, those models exist with scrape data right now, right? They haven't included all these deals have kind of been done with the majors and whatnot. But that's why then every year you can say this, but the next 6 to 8 months will be very interesting as those models come back to people trained on
clean up that relationship, clean up those attribution. Like, can you do it retroactively after it's been scraped, for example?
Well, can you? And those models are going to sound different now, right? Because you can't use everything under the sun now. You have a much more limited data set. I think it creates some interesting opportunities for startups to come participate and innovate in a way that felt like there was really just two major players before. And now, I think there's room to do other cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too, when we talk about it in the context of LANDR, because your mastering tool, the sort of automated mastering was disruptive at the time. And certain people in the industry were feeling similar ways, but then
everyone, I think, I have the scars to prove it, man. I was like, good Lord.
But then like new use cases for mastering emerged.
Yes,
like the A/B testing with mastering, you could still use a traditional mastering engineer, but first run it through to be like, well, how are we going to describe this sound? What are we going to pull up? What are we going to like deprecate? Maybe we're doing some songwriting in the last minute as well, because once we've heard a quick A/B test of mastering, it's a whole different ball game, and it actually could help even for traditional mastering engineers.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you build technology, it's fascinating to see how people actually use it versus what your intent was. And for mastering, in LANDR, I came on at the first year anniversary of the company, so I didn't build it from scratch, right? I influenced it a lot over the years. But people have used it for all sorts of things that don't completely cut the mastering engineer out of the equation. And I use this analogy all the time, and it could pertain to a lot of what's happening in Gen AI too, right? 13 years ago when LANDR launched, it was going to be the end of the music industry, right? The sky was going to fall, whatever. And what we've seen, we have data to back this up now over a decade. It hasn't impacted the mastering industry pretty much at all, right? What it's done is exposed a whole new group of users to what mastering is, right? They're getting something back that sounds better than what they put in, and they don't have the skills or the money to pay somebody to do that, right? And some of those people move on through their music production journey. Some are, kind of casually dipping a toe. But if even a percentage of those people that we widen that funnel for come into the more pro audio sector,
Right.
buy a microphone, hire a mastering, become a mastering engineer, become
Wow.
a mix engineer, that I think ultimately, and is proven, I think ultimately benefits all of us. And that could be the case for Gen AI, where instead of playing a video game, I'm going to mess around making some music, which I wouldn't normally do because it's so crazy accessible now, even if it's just kind of for fun to put something up on social media. But if you catch that bug, right, and if a percentage of those people kind of matriculate on, I think it ultimately could be good for the industry. And that's my glass half full take on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want more people involved in making music, period, and expressing themselves through that. And I think they will learn an instrument. It's going to resonate with people beyond just creating meme music,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think there's some interesting happening with the market growing with some of this new technology, which is super, super intriguing. You were talking about kind of the shift, that shift of timbre, basically,
Yeah.
in the field around AI. Let's talk about some real world examples from LANDR. How are you guys shifting product and features to respond to that more positive, creator first uses of AI?
Yes. Okay. So I have some good examples here because that's kind of my job to go source what I think, also talking to a bunch of people, what they would want, right, to exist in the world. So we have two things that we launched here, not shilling for Lander, but just, two things that we launched. One is called Blueprints, and it's Suno-esque in the way that it's an idea generator, right? If you're just stuck and you want to click some buttons, pick genre, pick vocalist style, and come up with some music ideas, maybe and put some lyrics, you can do that. It's not for releasing music that way, right? It's so that you get, stemmed out components of a track that you can take and do whatever you want with, which is cool. The thing that I'm most excited about is this thing we released called Layers. And what it does is you have to contribute something to it, right? So you have to give it a beat you're working on, or a singer-songwriter thing, or whatever, right? And you pick from real musicians, right? These are actual people, they're real names. You can go look them up. Or if you want a guitar player or trumpet player or whatever, and select the range in your song, you can add a trumpet solo, or you can tell the guitar player to play rhythm a part for you, or an ambient part, or a solo part. You can dictate if they're finger picking. You can dictate how they're playing and the dynamics of their playing. And it generates an actual audio file as if a studio musician actually played it. I think that's fascinating, right? So it allows you to it takes kind of the idea of virtual instruments and sampling and takes it kind of to a new place. But the thing that's the coolest, and I think this is the thing that will be adopted by the most people, is you can take any sample or loop, because we all look at, sampling is a huge thing, right? Using loops is a huge thing, but loops are very fixed things, right? You take it, you loop it out. Music's kind of boring that way. It's not dynamic. It doesn't breathe the way a human would perform it. This will take that loop and it will actually look at your song and match it harmonically and rhythmically to your track, and it will change over time to match. So it's like you gave that loop to a player, a real musician, and said, I want you to replay this, but actually make it fit my song and have it change. So music in that sense it's a use of AI where music becomes more musical than what people were doing with these very rigid samples. And that's the future of the music industry when it comes to DAWs and production that we all do, is contextually aware music and loops. Every piece of audio and MIDI will know what happens before it, what happens after it, and what happens vertically in an arrangement, and can alter to and adjust to that, whether you recorded it or you got it from LANDR.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like this NAMM does mark an inflection point.
I agree.
I'm seeing that with other conversations, even the hardware. There's a couple of hardware companies that have AI chips built into prototype hardware.
Yeah.
So you guys are doing it in software on web and stuff like that. There's a hardware component it's like, oh, wow.
Rowland and Newtone, and there's some very cool stuff.
Yamaha has a sequencer that has some AI.
Yeah, there you go.
Too, as well. So yeah, I'm hoping to go check those out later today as well.
Cool,
So,
man.
but it feels like an inflection, and it kind of felt like it had nothing to do with the hardware industry.
Oh yeah,
Here,
yeah.
but now it's like onboard AI is interesting because it doesn't feel like it's out in the Wild West. It's really like much more controlled. The models are specific.
Yep.
You know where it's coming from, and then you kind of own it when you make it because it's on an instrument as opposed to in the cloud.
Yeah, it feels very different, right? And the way this is all going to be successful ultimately, it's in the only reason so much AI stuff is in the cloud right now is because our computers aren't, they don't have the processing to support those models, and B, those models are quite large, right? Well, the models are getting smaller, and the GPU power, in our computers are getting, more robust. So it's all going to end up on device, and that's where you have low latency. This stuff can work in real time. It's more secure. Your stuff's not. There's so many advantages to that,
Right.
including how much this stuff costs right now. If you want to generate a piece of audio, and just talking about generative AI for a second, that runs on those models run on GPU clusters. It costs money, right? So every time you press generate, you have to pay. There has to be a subscription model for that, because you have to pay for it every time. And what's bizarre right now is when you press that button, you've paid for it before you've even gotten to hear it. Whereas a sample, if I find a piano loop I like, okay, I spend a credit, I get that loop, I can use it.
Yeah.
Generative AI doesn't work that way. You can't hear the output until you've actually used, GPU processing, which costs money to hear it. So it's backwards from the way we're even used to,
That's interesting.
interfacing
The
with music.
economics are shifting. So if it's on device as well, you're paying for the
Unlimited.
power. But
Yeah,
that's
well,
it. The device and the
that's it.
power. Yeah.
Well, and then it's the way we're used to using everything. Like
Yeah.
when I use a virtual instrument, I don't pay every time I play the virtual instrument.
Right.
That's preposterous, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big leap for me, and this is going to happen in the coming few years, is when we start to see these models move on device, and it becomes just the way that we're used to working inside our DAW, inside the creative space that we live in, not something that's external to that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. One last question as we close out, future facing some more, looking ahead. Where is this all heading? What should creators be paying attention to? What risks do companies face if they don't engage seriously with AI and creator trust?
Yeah.
I'm curious. Let's end with a little bit of that. What should we
Yeah.
be keeping an eye on?
Well, the creator trust thing is huge, right? Lots of companies would love to dip their toe more in the space, but they're really concerned about disrupting their current business because the people understandably have some anxiety and concerns around a lot of this technology because there's companies who've done really bad stuff, right?
Yeah.
So of course they should have that, myself included. But I think what you're going to see in the future, and I've had so many meetings with DAW companies here as an example, right? Where the technology it'll be transparent to you. It will exist in the environment you're in. We won't be calling it AI. It's just software that runs another software, right? That's all this branding crap is going to go away. Things just work more fluidly. And you can engage with some of that stuff, or you can't, or you won't, right? But it will all live where you work. And I think that's the hurdle that we need to get over so that, it doesn't feel like this separate thing. And that's coming in the next, let's say 3 to 5 years maximum. But every DAW that we use within the next few years will have substantial, even generative AI components to it.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. It's going to be table stakes, right? Everyone has to, as soon as somebody does it, everyone else has to kind of level up and match that.
Yeah. So there could be some creative music and new genres and new access and all sorts of cool things happening.
I find that so interesting. I mean, I know this is a cliche, but like, if you have taste, or I always have been saying this for almost 10 years, curation is creation. Like, look at DJ culture, right? If I don't have to make something from scratch to be able to impart my taste on something. Just selecting music, right, and presenting that to an audience can move them, right? And it express something for myself. AI kind of is that, right? It opens up the ability for people who would never dream of making music, but do have something to say, to participate in that. And like I said earlier, some of those people are going to go on to be well-known artists. They're going to go on to be musicians, even if they didn't start that way, in a way that I think is going to have a positive impact on the music industry after we get through all this BS that we've been dealing with over the past few years.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Well, Daniel, thanks for taking time out of NAMM. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Always happy to hear kind of where your thinking is. I think you always push me forward when I have these conversations.
Okay.
So great to see you, man.
Dude,
Appreciate it.
as always.
See you at Music Tectonics.
Yes, most definitely. Of course.
Next up, we have a special demo from Jun Usui from the Yamaha booth. Jun showed me a prototype that integrates Bumi's AI sample generation directly into Yamaha's Seek Track instrument. It's a glimpse into a future where AI isn't just in the cloud, but embedded in the instruments that musicians use every day.
Hi, I'm Jin from Yamaha. So today I'd like to introduce Six Track with Boomi integration. The Boomi is the AI sound generation AI company, and they have Loop Magic that is a sample the loops generation AI is very high quality things. So we are collaborating integration the Boomi function to the hardware product. So what we want to do is kind of expand the creativity of the producers. So we are seeking the Yamaha seeking the way of expand the creativity, imagination of the users and the producers. So I think the prompting the sample using the generating sound using prompt and generating sounds they want expand the creativity and the way of creation. So I like to show how it works. So here's Six Track. This is kind of Groovebox. And there are a lot of tons of sounds inside, but I think still, user wants to sounds they like. Yeah, so here's the prototype of the AI sample generator here. It's not available on the market, but it's a prototype. Yeah, here, this is a single mode and pack mode. Single generating the single sounds like kick, bass, clap, snare, something like that. Pack mode generates all the kind of samples for a 6-track project. So for example, here the prompting something like so I think I'm not good at yeah, for example, Korean pace, but like techno focused vector sound pack with dog role functional character, then press create. Now generate sounds. And yeah, so this prompts decomposed into these 9 sounds. So therefore kick, for example, kick with the sub punch and giddy front edge, snare drum with dry, crack and harsh texture, body. So this kind of AI agent generates each prompt here. And now it's generating. So like this. And if you don't like sounds, you can edit here, the each prompts and regenerate it. Yeah, also generate it. So we can preview it here.
So you were previewing each individual sound,
Yeah.
and then it puts together the whole loop together. So you can both look at the individual stems as well as the full loop.
So this is kind of just a preview of the, how it works, how it combine the sounds.
Oh,
So if you would like to add sounds, for example, I like this kick sound, so I like to add, so that you can name here, punchy kick, for example, and tag it, and let's 6. Yeah, add to the list. So now you can use the sounds. So here's the kind of sound pool here. Yeah, these are sound I generated. So here, punchy kick. Yeah, this one's I generated, and press load. The sound is loaded into this product. So now I can use the sound. Okay, here's the editor. Yeah, the sound is I generated now, and you can program it like this.
yeah, that's very cool.
$5.
Love it. Yeah. So what do you think is the use case for this prototype? Normally people would maybe go to Splice or another platform and download specific sounds. Then they have to load them into the device. They can only choose from what's already available in the catalog versus this was prompt based and it goes directly in. Is that right?
Yeah, so this is already integrated this product, and also if generate kind of nuance they want. So if you like, kind of a little bit more lo-fi, you just add a lo-fi in the prompts, or kind of a little bit reverby, so just prompts they want. If you generate sound is a little bit different, you can just add prompt to it. So it's a little bit different from just selecting sounds, but you can generate what they want, and also you could accidentally it generates something different from their inspiration maybe.
Yeah.
But it offers kind of possibility to expand the how to say that kind of source of inspiration maybe.
Yeah.
So that kind of things are also interesting to use kind of AI for creation.
Yeah. And to me, this is like a inflection point at NAMM where you have almost onboard
Right.
AI models with physical hardware. Do you also see that as a shift from what we've seen up till now with AI in music?
Yeah, so I think the computational power, it requires a lot of computation to using the AI model basically. But this has a kind of good combination of software and hardware that we can utilize the power of the computer and the accompanying app. And also, of course, we like to integrate into this kind of standalone product. But I think this is a kind of really good way to integrate AI technology, and we can understand what kind of feeling we can how we can feel that and using AI with the hardware. So I think, yeah, so that's a very interesting to see. So using AI in the hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's very interesting.
What's interesting to me about it is it feels like it's when it's out there in the cloud and you're typing prompts, you're not sure where the AI models came from, whether they've been attributed, whether the creators of what the training data have been trained on. It sort of feels like the Wild West. It's just out there. You don't know whose music you've created on top of, and you don't really know if you own it as well.
Right.
And this is interesting. Once it's on a gear where it feels like it's a closed model, it changes how you feel about what you're making with it as well. It feels more like mine in a way.
Yeah. So, and this is kind of not only whole song but sample. So you can use your kind of combination, the samples. I think it's a little different from the general whole sound, whole song. And also, Boomi is training a model using the very high quality sounds and also very ethical data. So that is why we can now collaborate with Boomi.
Yeah.
And it's sound amazing.
Yeah. What happens after prototype? This is prototype. It's only available here in this studio at NAMM.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Yeah. So so this is just we just build a prototype. So I like to hear about how people feel, how producer feel, and what's the best way to integrate. Is it okay for just software and hardware integration, or is it necessary for integrate the hardware or the functional point of view? Is it enough, or maybe they need more kind of additional features? So we're getting feedback, and I can say when it's available, but yeah, I'd like to continue this prototype project.
Yeah. So not specific to this prototype or this partnership, if you just had to guess, how many years off are we from shipping a device, a controller, a sequencer, a synth that has the model built in on a chip that's not even connected to a computer?
Yeah, of course it depends. So the functional, how it's complicated and processing required. But now it's changing the kind of paradigm. The cloud models, the edge computing. So yeah, so I think in and it's difficult to say when, but so in near future, I think the more kind of edge computing, hardware, AI things will come.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Jun, thank you so much for the demo. Congratulations on the prototype. I can't wait to see what happens with the next.
Thanks so much.